This is a podcast with wrestling. This is a podcast with wrestling. This is a podcast with wrestling. This is a podcast with wrestling.
Welcome to PBW. Peanut Butter Wrestling. No, it's Podcast with Wrestling. Today we're going to look at round 2 of the New Japan Cup 2023. So we're just every single New Japan match. Whether I watched it or not, we are going to talk about and kind of go through it there. I do apologize for the erratic schedule that the podcasts have been coming out or will be coming out. I do not have a schedule. I will just kind of record when I can and watch when I can. Life gets at you, so just to let everyone know that podcasts will come out. I just don't have a specific time that they will come out, so that's on me. But also, hopefully, you guys continue to listen and continue to watch on YouTube if ever. But we'll just get started. So, podcast recording me or the other clips of me, just take it away. Here we go. All right, we're going to kick off with the first match of the second round with Tetsuya Naito versus Chase Owens. Just going to go through my notes as mentioned in the intro. Chase goes in, copying Naito, taking time to remove his jacket, and then attacking Naito after asking him to check. Aaron Henare on commentary, really funny, also really insightful. It was just very entertaining to have him on. The nuances he talked about of Owens wanting to fight close and use the closeness while, Naito likes to create space before he moves in for the kill. That was really interesting to use or kind of add to the kayfabe of the situation. He even listed down the moves each wrestler's used at this point. I can't remember exactly which one, but moving on later into the match, a Russian leg sweep into defense was the big spot to make Owens take control. Owens wrestles a slow match, taking away all of Naito's speed, just to probably pay off at the end of the match with Naito's speed. That was at least what we were assuming. Chase copies Naito's corner combination for fun. Whip to the corner, over the top rope, sweep, then the drop kick, but, it was really good, the little spot there to copy him. It was a slow, methodical match, but, while I was watching it, I was expecting Naito's comeback to be quite huge or, quite big, the way that it was going to come back from. Because, it was just literally Owens 90% of the match and the way through. The corner combination, Naito's turn, where Owens protects himself and Naito waits for him, was fun. I think he just, stood there, waited, and then hit him with a drop kick or something. And then Owens countering Destino by falling to the ground was also good. So, he couldn't, actually complete the Destino or get there because he just fell. Kind of like when Okada and Omega did the whole too tired to even take the Rainmaker move. What else did I say? Oh my god, the middle rope Styles clash, I legitimately thought that was going to be the winner. Owens took it from Styles, or was an homage to Styles, and that was crazy. The Owens V trigger, I was lit. I forgot the name of it. The C trigger, I think they called it. And then Owens couldn't get the package pile driver for the win, and Naito escapes with a roll-up victory. Interesting to see that Naito in the tournament continues to not win with the Destino. He hit him with a Destino, they kicked out, and, this is the second match in a row where he had the flash pin for the win, and it was quite interesting to see that was the case there. At this point, I'm still believing that Naito is going to be the big winner or, the big star for the tournament. He keeps winning with flash combinations. He keeps getting beat down and still finding a way to win. So it just feels like he's maybe not on the top of his game at the moment, but he still knows how to win. So in a way, Naito's still kind of underdoggy, but still for me personally, the main person to take it, because he's not doing winning convincingly. So maybe it might bite him in the ass later on, but we'll see. That was the first match of the tournament, or the second round. Moving on to the main event of that night and the second match of the second round, Kenta versus Sanada. Sanada was not supposed to be there, as Sanada has been struggling to find consistent victories, mentioned by Kevin Kelly. Aaron Henare came with a really lovely quote: "The moment I beat my opponent is the moment I love him," which very much speaks to the situation of what Sanada is going through right now. When he beat Taichi, the respect that was gained, and the kind of the awareness that this person can bring out the best in me. might play in a factor like later on in the tournament. It's very cool to see. Let's see. This is the first time I get to see Kenta in singles action in New Japan Pro Wrestling, apart from when he beat Fred Rosser for the title. I was about to call him Darren Young. That was really dumb of me. But to see him wrestle in Japan with another Japanese wrestler, very cool to see. Cool to see that he's coming out with the title. He has the vibe about him where he feels so in control. That was in reference to Kenta. Interesting to note that Sanada apparently is 3-0 versus Kenta. That's just kind of a wild stat to me, but that's like quite interesting to know that's happening there. Slow going at the beginning with a bunch of wrestling holds back and forth. Easy showing of both men in equal standing. Quick back and forth with Sanada getting the upper hand and then Kenta gaining control of the match by rolling out of the ring. I'm not really a fan of things going outside of the ring. I don't know why. Yeah, I looked at that and every match that I see, they have to have an outside of the ring spot. Maybe it's like a requirement from the higher ups or from booking that they need the people who paid front row seats to have a better show or have a close up to the show. Maybe they just like it that way, but you can definitely see the rhythm of a match when it comes to whatever happens in the ring, and then somehow someone spills out, a couple of hits to the gate or the barricade, and then the breaking the 20 count. That's very much required. It's required reading essentially for a New Japan like singles competition match, or even just a every singles competition so far has had that exact like outside the ring spot, the 20 count spot, and then they carry on wrestling. Where was I? Kenta not being able to figure out the Paradise Lock was funny. Yeah, using the tape to to put him in the Paradise Lock was really good. Kenta like had this energy about him where he's serious but also not. Like serious in terms of he's taking the match seriously, but it's not like the cerebral Kenta that I expected, or at least what I thought was going to be, because I haven't watched a lot of Kenta apart from like his Hideo Itami days from WWE. I was very much unaware and uneducated about him, but seeing how he is portrayed now, or how he is portraying himself now, is quite interesting. It's like just a shitty heel who knows he can wrestle, he knows he's good, but he's getting too cocky for himself where things get over, or like a simple win or a simple use of his moves would win, which is cool to see, because that could be like the ultimate downfall before he might turn back into that serious angle. But maybe it's not time for him yet, so he's just gonna continue doing this cocky heel, I'm good at wrestling so I don't need to wrestle situation. The misdirect of the dropkick to fake it was cool. That was with the Paradise Lock. Where are we? The misdirects were a good use to show no DQ, but also Red Shoes using referee's discretion by not counting the cover after the neck breaker. So, I think this was after the Paradise Lock and Kenta faking the the drop kick and doing a neck breaker instead. Red Shoes didn't want to, or it might have been a completely different thing, but Red Shoes knew that Kenta was cheating, so referee's discretion was used, and after a neck breaker, he didn't want to count or do the pinfall or the cover, because he's not gonna let him win off of cheating, which is cool. Like, I like how the referee feels like they've been instructed to make sure the matches win fair and square, and that cheating is not the main thing that will win someone. Like, they're trying their best not to disqualify an opponent, so they're carrying on the match and letting the other person recover as it goes. It does feel weird, definitely. It does like kind of break you out of the situation, because any official in any sport would call that like disqualification and make sure that everything is fair from the get-go, because like even like a tiny bit of cheating can give you like an upper hand for a very long time. So 50-50 on how I feel about that. Sanada does a comeback with a double over dropkick to the plancha. Jumps over Kenta twice, hits him with a dropkick. Kenta rolls out and he hits the plancha. Then Sanada hyping up the crowd. It's been quite a slow build in the match so far. They keep talking about Sanada awakening, which leads to a flare to the apron, to a springboard dropkick. Literally after saying the match slows down, it picks up, but then slows down right. It slows down again. after Kenta falls on the ref on purpose to slow the match right back down. So, Kenta doing the typical heel stuff where he's trying to make things slow and methodical and not exciting so that the crowd can hate him for not having a good match, or like boo him for not being entertaining, or like boo him from stopping Sanada from doing the cool stuff. Let's see. The chair has been used. Boos come from the crowd. Kenta pops the chair seat off the frame on Sanada's head when the off of Sanada's head. So the chair, literally, he just did a chair shot and the seat flies up after like making contact with Sanada's head. Red Shoes wakes up. Sanada kicks out of the double stomp from the top rope. GTS escapes, so Kenta goes for the go to sleep, and he escapes. Sanada escapes, then wait, let me read this again. GTS escaped to Kenta, just open hand slapping Sanada was crazy, and then the GTS counter to the skull end, back to counter to a crossface, to a long hold, then the last breath escape. So it was Kenta doing the GTS to Sanada, countering, slapping him in the face, and just doing that whole shebang. I'm not remembering this quickly because this was like what? This was like a couple. Like I'm recording this on the 29th of March, so this is like weeks after this happened. So I'm not remembering a whole lot of it. O'Connor roll, I thought Sanada was going to win with. Yeah, I did actually remember that. Sanada now supposedly awake and alive and intense, then hits the moonsault, which is near fall, so kick out at 2. Skull end counter on Red Shoes getting knocked out again. Russian leg sweep, then a low blow moments later. Then Kenta grabs the belt, intending to hit Sanada, which he does by using it to counter the skull end. Then a counter by Kenta to kicking the belt into Kenta's face. Sorry, a counter by Sanada, kicking the belt into Kenta's face, then goes for the new DDT finish that he has into the victory. It was a slow match, chaotic, but good. A lot of story with Kenta just doing everything but wrestling to win. So yeah, even in my notes, like, I remember that Kenta absolutely just did not want to wrestle that match. Not like Kenta the person, but like Kenta the wrestler, the story and the character. Like, he wanted to cheat to win. He wanted to take the easy way out. It really feels like Kenta is cruising along with the Bullet Club quite well, so he doesn't want to put in that much work and doesn't want to like try and fight Sanada or like fight whoever's coming up next, because it's just too much work. Why would he put that much effort when he's already the champion and he's proven to himself that he's, good enough already? Like, he doesn't have to put in the work. He doesn't have to do all of those things that he did back in the day to be successful, unless that's just his character. But interesting to note, Sanada is now 4-0 versus Kenta, so that's kind of crazy in a way. Finally, the end of the show, the gift that Sanada mentioned when the lights went down and all the phone lights lit up the arena was very cool. Then, he says see you next time to finish the show. So that was pretty cool. I like that whole Sanada with the phone lights kind of a thing. I want to see that more. Maybe we will see that more. I'm filming this on the 29th. I'm trying to like not spoil things for the next episode, but if you've watched and you're just listening to the recap, you'll know, but if you haven't, then it'll be interesting. So that was the first night. We're moving on to the second night, and that next match is Tama Tonga versus Aaron Henare. The match starts big with big hits, Aaron attacking and then Tama countering. The jacket comes off straight away and makes it feel like Tama is not messing around. He has that jacket, the Iron Man looking jacket, and to see him like straight away, like in the beginning versus Aaron Henare, like take it off, kind of shows that, number one, Henare as a character or as a wrestler is, climbing up the ranks, and that Tama's taking him seriously, which is very cool to see. And or Tama is just straight up like, nah, I want to just fight and carry on. This is my time. I'm the new never open weight. It's time to prove myself as a singles wrestler. Let's not mess around. Crossbody catch to the slam onto the ring post was a crossbody catch to the slam onto the ring post to a hot shot onto the rail was the turnaround for Henare, and Jeff Cobb emphasized that you don't want to brawl with Henare, emphasizing that Henare is all about fighting, Henare is all about being tough and like kind of getting around there. But interesting that, yeah, the way that Henare came off of or continues to use the rails to his advantage is interesting. Really, it does emphasize that he doesn't, like, he's a brawling type and is very keen to just continue to fight there. It's his comfort zone to be in that area. Very cool to see, especially for how they're building him. Tama selling early on that he's affected and Henare is tough. Henare mid-match targets Tama's leg with a big knee breaker and then going into a knee bar heel hook kind of a submission. Tama comes back with the Dragon Screw a couple moments later. The gun stun counter into a pop-up Samoan drop was beautiful. Any gun stun counter, just as creative as you can get with it, it'll get me to pop, so that was really cool. Even it was pretty simple too, but like it just looked magical. Gun stun to the Ultima counter was also dope. Tama getting caught when doing the gun stun has been so good. He, like, I don't know if he comes up with it or if the wrestlers that he is going to have a match with, or if they have producers, like, they come up with these spots for it. But it's really cool how, you know, the gun stun's coming, but the real question most of the time, at least for me, is how is the gun stun going to be countered? That's like kind of the big thing. So he had him in the Ultima. He let go to do the Streets of Rage, and then did the Hammerhead headbutt again. Then the Streets of Rage was countered into a gun stun, into another gun stun, and then Tama Tonga takes the victory. It was a good match. Enjoyed the Hinari victory, but also enjoyed Hinari getting out of there ASAP. Like, he lost, they pulled him out, and they gave Tama the view. Like, you know, Hinari knows when he loses. At least it shows that, like, he's not gonna be like a piss poor loser kind of a thing. Like, he loses, he accepts it, he goes to the back, and he's ready to fight again the next time he has an opportunity, you know, which is kind of cool because, like, it does add to, like, kind of the face aspect of the United Empire, because they're starting to become, at least not starting to become, but at least from what I'm seeing, they're interacting very positively with the fans. They're not like cussing them out or getting them to boo. They're starting to gain favor with them, which is cool. So maybe that's why they're moving, or they did that, or they just wanted to give Tama the place to speak. Yeah, the decision that won him the match was okay, so that was an interesting story point. So when I think it was the Ultima is the submission, I think basically he had in Hinari's previous match, he had Shingo in the Ultima, let go, did the Streets of Rage, and won. It was that exact decision that lost him the match. So the next singles match, or like the next big time singles match Hinari has, I'm interested to see if that will come up again in the match and like show that he has grown from it or knows that it's not going to continue to work. But, you know, knowing it's wrestling, like, they usually let go of the submissions and then try to do a different move. Like, take Sanada, for example, in the previous match. Every time he does the skull end, he'll let it go to do the moonsault. So, unless it's established that the submission will lead to the finish or like his finishing move, then we'll kind of figure it out. So we'll kind of see. Again, this is my first time watching Hinari like properly go through his matches and seeing that character like work his way through. I didn't get to see when he beat Tanahashi, and again, you know, I started this year. I started 2023, so maybe there's a couple of things that I'm not aware of yet, but it's really cool to see that all of it is like coming together and that he's getting at least for me, from a new fan's perspective, he's getting that tough dude, don't want to mess with him, don't want to brawl with him kind of a thing. Like, if you were a smaller dude, you have to like run around him kind of a thing. So that was cool. And yeah, not a lot else. It was just a very entertaining match. Not a ton of story that came out of there. Moving on to the main event, as previously mentioned, Hiroki Goto versus Kyle Fletcher. I only mentioned Jeff Cobb because he was really entertaining on the mic for commentary. He brought back the bangers and mash joke. I found out he was Filipino, which is crazy. The quote that he said, he couldn't be a star if a ninja threw him, in reference to Goto. Like, what the hell kind of a quote? That's so funny. Like, that was such a good, like, I don't know, he was entertaining to the point where I kind of forgot about the match. At the beginning of the match, Goto bounces off the barricade and seems like everyone is doing it. At least all the big dudes or the stronger guys are doing it. I didn't pay much attention to the match, if I'm being honest with this. The story wasn't super strong. The Tombstone didn't win it for Kyle this time versus Goto, and Goto wins with the GTR, allowing for a rubber match of sorts for the tag titles in the future. So yeah, I wasn't super entertained by this match, or I was kind of burnt out with the note taking for the match. All I remember, I don't really remember too much of the match, if I'm being honest. Like, seeing Goto wrestle, not the biggest pop for me, but that could change in the future. And you know, Kyle also, like, I I just kind of lost it through time. So I do apologize that it wasn't very detailed from that end, but as someone who's just trying to keep up with the story and watching, it happens. Like, you do get bored of some matches, and it's not, I'm going to put it out there that you don't have to feel guilty for not watching everything and not finding everything enjoyable. We're not here to, we're not here to be nice to their feelings as wrestlers. Like, sometimes we just zone out, and that's what happened at this point. And I do want to apologize for zoning out, but it happened. So we're gonna move on to the next night. All right, moving on, we have Jeff Cobb versus Evil. Evil's camera zoom in is so fun. Dick Togo interfering after Jeff pulls him in. What? Dick Togo interfering, and after Jeff pulls him in, Evil attacks. It's a big hitter match with a shoulder tackle off, and Evil retaliates by going for the eyes and being dropped by Jeff. Then Fletcher and Henare even the odds by tossing Evil back into the ring. Jeff Cobb early on with a power advantage, which is crazy because Evil is also strong as hell. Jeff bringing Togo into the ring and then surfing on them both was fun. That was a really cool spot, actually. The bell ringing guy, I forgot what his name, the bell ringer, I don't know what the actual term is, got wrecked with one toss into the barricade. The chair swing was kind of wild. It looked pretty rough. It actually, yeah. A lot of the spots here look pretty rough in this match. Even though the chair spun across Jeff's face, the fact that it would still like pull on your neck looked like a pretty tough spot. So that was actually kind of cool, but also like rough. Evil getting tossed on a pinfall was sold really well because Evil was constantly surprised at Jeff's power. Like, in this entire match, Evil was like the perfect person to kind of deal with all of this and move through what was happening, because it looked like, number one, he was very confident because he had House of Torture on his side, but also number two, constantly surprised by Jeff's power, sold Jeff's power, and like sold all of his moves really well. Like, Evil did a great job in making sure that Jeff looked super strong throughout. And obviously Jeff did a good job doing all the moves, being like powerful and like getting the crowd onto his side, so that was fun throughout. Jeff sold his leg a little bit before the running power slam into the corner pad. This feels like Evil is super behind and fighting against a tide when fighting Cobb. The Darkness Falls on Jeff Cobb looked crazy with just the size of Jeff Cobb falling onto the mat. Every time Jeff took a bump, like a really high bump, the fact that the ring would like kind of shake, or that you can actually see the ring like bend like the trampoline or like a trampoline and jump back up, kind of wild. Trying to use the ref for Magic Killer, failing to use Togo for Magic Killer, and then Cobb doing the Magic Killer using Togo. Fucking, that was hilarious, because yeah, so Evil tries to use the ref. Jeff gets out. Dick Togo comes in to help. Jeff gets out. Jeff then counters it and puts Evil onto Togo, and then they both do the Magic Killer. Like, obviously Dick Togo didn't want to. It was an accident, or like it was Cobb's doing, but that was still really fun. The referee slapped Evil after being used to counter a German suplex. This is chaos. This has been a really fun House of Torture match. Henare and Fletcher just carrying out Togo out of the arena for the rest of the House of Torture to enter and attack them was fun. Great-O-Khan being handcuffed and just actual chaos happening in the ring. All of House of Torture ganging up and attacking Cobb. Cobb fighting off the House of Torture with Togo on his back, but then being attacked overall. Cobb then double back suplex, taken out by a low blow and a barrage of weapons. Everything is Evil to end the match, and a ton of boos from the crowd. Evil moves on. So this is just going to be my little note for the next round of the semis. This was a good setup match. Like, for everything that's going to happen next, because we're going to talk about Mark Davis versus Will Ospreay next, but everything that happened within this sequence was really, really key for setting up the energy and the kind of payoff for the mini storyline that's about to happen. But I mentioned in the previous podcast that I wasn't a fan of the House of Torture matches and like House of Torture style things, because it just gets really messy. But this was so key and so entertaining for what will later on be Evil's next match in the tournament. So this is it's kind of vague how I'm describing it, but like just trust me, like it's gonna be like it pays off really well. So listen out for the next episode when I go into the next round of the New Japan Cup for that. But for now, we will look at Mark Davis versus Will Ospreay. It was intriguing to see how this will go down as United Empire stablemates will go toe to toe. And most importantly, it's the leader battling with a stablemate, so that was quite fun. Great-O-Khan was also still handcuffed to the rail. I don't think he was coming out of it until the end of the show. Like, at the time, I was like, is he going to get out? Is there going to be a way? It's like, it's just, I don't know. Seeing him handcuffed for that entire time on commentary was hilarious. Handshake to start off, and an energetic feeling to start, as Ospreay is a smaller wrestler compared to Davis' size. The overwhelming power of Davis was shown early in the match. The Rana catch into a drop, and then tossing Ospreay out of the ring. That was actually cool. The traditional use of the rails turned Ospreay leaping over the rail, and then Davis catching him into a military press to be hot-shotted onto the rail. Davis also removed the floor mat and did a senton onto Ospreay, which was a bit brutal. It seems as if, Mark wasn't pulling any punches. The traditional 20 count happened. Ospreay kind of was the face in this instance. Kind of was the face in the match. Wasn't sure. And this was the shoulder injury that we were kind of worried about. Ospreay dislocating his shoulder, ? Is what I put in my notes. The opposite shoulder was being worked on, but he was selling the one with the white elbow pad. So it was clear that the white elbow pad shoulder was like kind of the problem. But throughout the match, like I couldn't tell. Like here, I even write down the shoulder's fine. He did a handspring kick. But still, Ospreay holding onto the right elbow pad shoulder a lot. So I even in the match, I was getting confused on which shoulder was supposed to be the injured one or which shoulder was actually being worked on. Davis pulling Ospreay while locked into the figure four to a rope break was cool. Like just pure power of Davis. Mark Davis bouncing off the mat on his own superplex was also dope because it showed like, yes, it's a risky move because you're going to injure Ospreay, but also you're also going to hurt yourself when you do a superplex. Cool to see how Davis is in control of most of the match. The Oscutter didn't take out Davis after countering Davis's finisher into a crucifix bomb. Ospreay misses the hidden blade to a sequence of strikes for Davis to respond with an enziguri to a counter. Then a Spanish fly from the top rope countered into a clothesline from the top rope to the clothesline after running the ropes. I just listed out all the moves that happened, and actually, like, I'm kind of overwhelmed with how much actually happened. The crazy pop-up pile driver all the way to the elbow, and then moving on to his finish, which was countered by Ospreay as he tried to hit the Stormbreaker, countered into a Storm driver. Then Davis trying to carry on fighting, but his knee giving out, leading to the hidden blade for the finish. I kind of flew through the entire match there, but it was a crazy match total. Like, if you were to watch one match into this tournament, this would be one that I would also suggest because this will also lead into it. So these two matches were key. It was an incredible match, but now we're going to see what the shoulder is like. Great-O-Khan was still handcuffed by the end of the show, and they didn't take him out for the entire match. Respect was shown between Davis and Ospreay at the end of the match, so the United Empire is still fine. No shame in losing to the best in the world, Mark Davis, indeed, as Ospreay said, is a Sugoi pro wrestler. And the interview with Ospreay while O-Khan was stuck, sorry, it's just weird. It's so funny just seeing how, House of Torture trapped Great-O-Khan and it just kept him there forever. It was interesting to see that Ospreay did say or mention that he popped something and that he's never felt pain like that before. Ospreay was very face in his post-match interview. O-Khan is still trapped. So looking at the news and later on actually did some research after, not even research, I just did some preliminary searching. It looks like Ospreay's shoulder was hurt pretty bad and his status on the card was changed for the next show, that Davis is going to take place and face Evil in that match, which is unfortunate as Ospreay did seem like he had he seemed like he was on a roll and was like building pretty well to it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the rest of the tournament because looking at the card, it's looking like Evil versus Naito if Evil pulls through, and if Naito surprises Sanada. Naito, at this point in time, I still felt like will go into the final match no matter what, but I assumed it was going to be Naito versus Ospreay because that might have set up the two to face each other at Wrestle Kingdom. So with Ospreay's injury, it did kind of mess up my prediction, but we'll see. It's not even like a prediction that I think it will happen. It's kind of like a prediction that I want to happen. But we'll see. The undercard was not interesting to me, as it kind of assumed the builds for each match. The announcer at the start of the show also announces Ospreay's injury. Also, this is for the next match. I moved too fast and I couldn't figure out who was on commentary for the next show. But essentially, when we move into Great-O-Khan versus Shota Umino next, we're moving into the next show, and that was just some notes that I had for it. But yes, let's jump into Great-O-Khan versus David Finlay next. Thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed and is sponsoring me over at patreon.com/paperpenguin17. I do appreciate the support there, and I do just want to highlight that all of the work that I'm doing, whether it be on Twitch, paperpenguin17, the YouTube main channel, Instagram, or TikTok, all of that's being supported by everyone on Patreon and the lovely people who are there. So please consider helping out if you can, and we're going to send you right back into the video, or right back into the podcast. So Great-O-Khan versus David Finlay. Great-O-Khan, finally free from the shackles of the House of Torture, gets roasted on commentary as Kyle tells us that he eats a ton and has 7 stomachs. Just a fun little thing that happened on the side. We start off swinging, Kyle yelling at Marty to stop Finlay from doing illegal things. Finlay does look good in the Bullet Club gear, and he really looks the part. O'Khan's arm drag looks really good, kind of like a hip toss of sorts. And his double chop with the shriek is also cool as hell. Like, it just adds to who he is and, like, the vibe of his character. Uranagi backbreaker to a kick out at 1 really shocked Finlay. Finlay thought he would have lost that, but he actually... Or did he? No, he did the Uranagi. And O'Khan kicked out at 1. Very surprising. Supposedly, like, whatever he was doing wasn't really working. Double down on the crossbody later in the match. So far, it was booked to have Finlay in control, but O'Khan not being weakened anyway. I think it was the Sheik Killer, I think that's what he called it, when he did a backbreaker into the Killer and Finlay almost passing out. Like, he did the submission of some sort. Eliminator by O'Khan countered into a stunner by Finlay. Blindside clothesline to a kick out that got the crowd to cheer, which was actually surprising. I think what was confusing to me is that Trash Panda is the name of the finish, of Finlay's finish. I think they're going to change it. But, X marks the spot is a cooler way, I think. Because it just seems more serious. Like, the way that he called it Trash Panda just feels a bit weird, especially with the change in his character. But Trash Panda to win. A small sequence to the Cash or Trash. Small sequence to the Trash Panda to a Finlay victory. Pretty simple match, pretty straightforward. Just makes David Finlay move through. There could have been more, I think, but didn't really click into it too much. So the next one's gonna be pretty long. Shota Umino versus Zack Sabre Jr. Shota's 20-minute entrance now in place, and honestly, it takes forever. Thank God this time the walk wasn't too far. People do seem to really like the shooter, so in the crowd he's definitely over. The kids like him. It seems like the women in the crowd are very much a fan of him, and the dudes are very much cheering for him. Kyle really sold that Shota was the best, that the test against Zack Sabre Jr. was very key for his career. Also selling that Red Shoes being Shota's father is basically cheating, but we'll see how that plays into the match. Winner of the previous New Japan Cup comes out. Ichiban Sweet Boy Kosei Fujita, which I finally figured out his name, goes out with Zack Sabre Jr. Claps from the crowd so when the match begins, there are claps from the crowd on a clean break from Zack Sabre Jr. And I'm gonna tell you now, I listed out a bunch of spots that I thought was really cool in this match. But I do think this match was very key to Shota's character build, and even Zack Sabre's reign as the TV champion. It's very, very much a good building match for that aspect. Let's see, where do we start? So there was a lot of technical work at the beginning. The crowd clapped for a clean break from Zack Sabre Jr., which shows that Zack Sabre Jr. wants to actually test Shota, and he wants to see the best out of him. He's still a prick and he's still an asshole about it, but he's very much interested in seeing how he can go. Zack would not stop telling Shota to use his technique, but he gets overpowered by Shota. Zack escapes for Shota to put him back into the lock consistently, so then we're seeing that Shota is kind of prepared. or showing that Shota can frustrate Zack, which is cool to see, showing that Shota is capable. The armbar by Zack on Shota on the ropes is pretty insane, but now the momentum goes to Zack's favor after Zack was frustrated. Zack now attacking Shota's arm outside of the ring and using the rail to work the arm. Very good. At least it's not just like the regular Irish whips and stuff to the ring or to the rails. Appreciated that. Red Shoes still refereeing down the middle, which is what you want. And all it takes for Zack to stop Shota's offense is to get back to the arm to slow him right down. So there were builds there where Shota was going to get back up, but then straight into it, Zack takes the arm out, back in control. Zack controlling the match with his handholds makes a ton of sense for his style. He wants to wear you down all the way to the point where you can no longer use that limb. So Shota countering Zack Sabre Jr. on the apron with a huge wrist lock slam was really cool to see that he was able to figure things out throughout the match, or kind of find out that he can get a one-up on Zack. Blood comes out of the nose of Shota, adding to the look. Shota then throws Zack into the post with a hammerlock applied, and then Shota giving Zack some payback, after Zack was going after his arm. So Shota, interesting to see that maybe it's like a new wrestler kind of a thing, because they are building him as like the star, but he's also young and learning. Maybe that's just part of the story where Shota isn't wrestling his match. He's still trying to step up to the wrestlers that he is fighting against. Like, this felt like a match where Zack challenged him to the match, and Shota won to one-up Zack by kind of beating Zack in his own match. So maybe that's a thing that just happens that I haven't noticed, or that'll be Shota's career not his career, but like the storylines for Shota in the next couple of like months. Where were we? Shota shoving Red Shoes was kind of new and heelish, and the crowd was surprised. That's one thing that I do want to talk about real quick, is that Shota has some tendencies to be a little bit heelish. Like, I don't fully understand why he does these types of things when he's supposed to be the face, but maybe he's just the type of face who's kind of badass, like Stone Cold, Maybe it's that, because they mentioned that Jon Moxley was his mentor overseas, and that he holds Jon's jacket when he enters the ring. So maybe that's where that influence is coming from, but to me it just doesn't fit, especially because of how he looks and how he is portrayed. Like, he's portrayed to be a fan of the kids are his fans, right? The kids are really wanting to support him. So for me, if we're gonna make him the squeaky clean baby face, he shouldn't be swearing. He shouldn't be like shoving Red Shoes to the side and whatnot. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way that I'm thinking, and that clearly other people still find it entertaining, and the kids are still a fan of him. But it's teetering between that line where it's kind of getting interesting and seeing how he might turn later on, or if he's gonna keep this same path. Kind of like Okada recently, where he's been so brutal, kind of aggressive, and like kind of more, I guess, more prepared to do things that people might deem as not a good guy thing to do. Anyway, Zack selling his arm and making it hard for him to end up using the uppercuts was cool. As much as Zack can target and sell the arm, as much as Zack can target, he can really sell as well. It really added to Shota challenging him, and that he's kind of getting a one-up on Zack. Shota near the end of the match showing that he can play the same game and tries to win via submission. Shota so far in this match is showing that he can tangle with the best. Zack has the armbar locked in later on, but can't fully lock it in because of his shoulder getting damaged by Shota, using more of his legs so that he can get, so he can't get that win. So he can't get that same win he's been getting. Oh yeah, sorry. So Zack's been winning, at least for the past couple of matches. He's been winning with that armbar that instantly wins the match for the title, the TV title. So he couldn't really get that armbar in because his arms were messed up. So he had to kind of change strategy there, which was interesting to see. Where are we? The Zack Driver countered into the Crossroads, holding on for another Crossroads into a Bloody Sunday, then to a neckbreaker. Feels like the finish is coming. It's kind of starting to build, and like the energy is starting to build through. Death Ride then countered into a series of strikes, leading to a pop-up uppercut to an abdominal stretch, to Zack's special pin package, to Shota countering to another roll-up, to Zack holding the armbar, which is wild. Then Shota now looking like he's about to pass out, just won't give up and ultimately finds the rope. Zack later on not being able to use his own arm, with the ref asking him if he was good, like checking in on Zack, and like the whole Shota continuously trying to match Zack. Death Rider escaped to an abdominal stretch by Zack, to a guillotine, to a suplex, and a kick out at 1. 1 PK, later kick out at 1, then running into a strike to the back turn into a Death Rider. So running strike, backpack turn, Death Rider finishes the match. And they really are putting a lot of stock into Shota and making him like look really good. Like this might just be a setup for later on for Zack versus Shota for the title. But in a way, it really, makes Shota look good and makes Shota feel powerful in this instance, and like it makes him feel like he can get through this and actually make it. And we're just going to quickly look at it now. I think that is the final match of the second round. The next couple of matches is the quarterfinals. Yes, so who we have in the quarterfinals are Goto versus Tama Tonga, Finlay versus Shota Umino, Sanada versus Tetsuya Naito, and Evil versus Mark Davis, as Mark Davis is the one who steps in place for Will Ospreay after the injury. We will go through this match as well as the semis and then the final in the next show. But for now, that has been all the matches for the second round so far. And that has been it for PBW. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast and or watching on YouTube or Spotify. Guys, there is videos out on my YouTube channel, Paper Penguin 17, or at Paper Penguin 17 on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram or on TikTok, Paper Penguin 17. And just give it all a watch. I'll be coming up with another episode pretty soon with the rest of the New Japan Cup. And we're gonna kind of just go from there. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I know it's been a bit weird. Still trying to get my feet back together, and this is probably gonna be the way that the whole year is gonna go, so be prepared for that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and catch you again next time. Bye.
It's a podcast, but wrestling. PBW, 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 podcast, but wrestling. PBW, 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 podcast, but wrestling. Not peanut butter wrestling, it's a podcast, but wrestling. Not peanut butter wrestling, it's a podcast, but wrestling. Not peanut butter wrestling, it's a podcast, but wrestling. Not peanut butter wrestling, it's a podcast, but wrestling. This is a podcast, but it's wrestling. This is a podcast, but it's wrestling. This is a podcast, but it's wrestling. This is a podcast about wrestling. This is not about peanut butter.